welcome to this special edition of All Indiana Young Voices of Black Indy. As you can see, we have a panel of 7 Black high school students who are phenomenal. They were all recruited by the Indianapolis Urban League, all of whom live in communities within the Indy city limits.
Yes, and you are about to be given an incredible opportunity, one that could dramatically affect your lives in good ways, as well as our lives and of the lives of your families and the people who live in your neighborhoods.
So for the next hour, you are actually going to be hearing from these young voices of Black Indy. But before any of you say a word, I want you to do this. Use the slates that are in your hands to write down a 1- or 2-word response to this question. How would you describe your quality of life as a Black person in Indy?
I'm ready to give them some time, and in just a few moments, these students could have a profound impact on their quality of life by the insightful answers they're going to share with us in just a moment.
All right, so I know they're still writing. All that time when your mom and dad said that your handwriting would make a difference.
Today is the day.
Today is the day, exactly.
But take your time, and we can't wait to hear what you have to say.
All right, so look up at us when you're done. Okay, all right. So let's see what you all have managed to write up. Hold up your slates. Okay, so we have conditional, full of adversity, overcoming adversity and showing perseverance, desperate wide range of emotion, never fully comfortable, blessed and loved. All right, and last but not least, substandard diverse. Well, I think that that's a good way to try to kick all of this off.
And thank you all for being so transparent and real. We really appreciate it. Let's go on to this one. You deserve a better quality of life. Do you believe there's a disparity between the lives of Black people and the lives of others?
And of course, this is the good news here. And I know people are nodding yes or no. Here's the good news. Is the thing that we're here to actually talk about today. Help is on the way. The National Urban League is leading a very huge initiative for our area's African American communities. And there's a multi-million-dollar grant from the Lilly Endowment to back it up. News 8's David Williams explains.
It's called the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative.
The Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative is a place-based grant-making effort ultimately. And so funded by the Lilly Endowment with a $100 million grant to the National Urban League, whereby which we're going to establish priorities for funding.
The funds will be dispersed in various ways to help multiple programs, for example, within education, employment, Black business development, housing, and health. The Indianapolis and the National Urban League says this work is supported by a $100 million Lilly Endowment grant.
And the primary goal is to invest in the community so that we can see immediate impact in the quality of life for African Americans in this area, with the goal of building a fund that continues to invest in the community beyond the 5 years of the grant.
Indianapolis Urban League President Tony Mason says they're excited to be doing the work and are thankful for the endowment grant.
What we're trying to do is we are trying to determine with input from the community, Black people at all levels of the community through our community opportunities assessment, as well as from thought leaders, experts, practitioners who are participating as a part of our issues prioritization management discussions. We're trying to determine what the priorities need to be.
The Indianapolis Urban League and the African American Coalition are working closely together to lead this work locally.
About 700 people have been interviewed. There have been individual interviews, there have been community meetings, there will be some online meetings, there will be surveys. We have had ambassadors go out into the neighborhoods where people may not have technological access to ask them.
In Indianapolis, I'm David Williams, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
Thank you so much, David. So there you go. A grant in the amount of $100 million has been gifted by the Lilly Endowment, and the Urban League has recruited the 7 of you you guys, the special ones, to give us insights on how that money to raise the quality of life for Black people in Indianapolis should be spent.
And so as we talked about, the Urban League did put this together, this panel for us. So before we give all the questions to you, I think it's really good for us to be able to meet you. So Emery, we're going to start with you and work our way around. Tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Emery McCann. I am 18 years old and a recent graduate of Crispus Attucks High School. I work as a current CNA, and I plan to become an OBGYN specializing in labor and delivery.
I know that's right.
That's amazing.
My name is Darnell Perkins. I'm a recent graduate from Pike High School, and I will be studying economics with a pre-law focus from the University of Michigan.
Wow.
My name is Miriam Olaletan, and I recently graduated from Ben Davis University High School, and in my free time, I love listening to podcasts and be aware of things going on in our neighborhood and outside of the country.
That's incredible. And I know this Friday is a big Friday for you. What's happening?
I will be moving to college in St. Louis.
Yes, that's Friday.
I'm
New
excited about that.
beginning,
Got all the food spots for you.
Yes.
My name is Sterling Smith. I'm 16 years old. I go to Warren Central High School. I play football there, and I'm hoping to play Division I football. If not, I'm willing to be a physical therapist as well.
Oh, if not, I'll just
If not.
continue saving lives. No big deal. And he came in here with this double-breasted suit. I
Yes,
told him
yes.
about himself. Okay.
I'm Grace Moore. I'm a recent grad from Lawrence Central High School, and I served on the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council for 2 years.
Awesome. Already a public servant. I like to see it.
My name is Shaiku Diallo. I'm an incoming senior at Decatur Central High School. I'm 17 years old, and in my free time, I enjoy playing football and reading books.
Awesome.
My name is Regine Sansbury. I'm a recent graduate of North Central High School. I'm 18. I've been recently getting into politics, and this fall I'll be heading to Purdue University to study biomedical sciences in hopes of becoming a physician assistant.
Incredible. Boilermaker, can I just say?
Can we
you
just give
are
them a round of
right.
applause?
You all are
Inspiration
so
here, yes.
impressive. I mean, especially within this last year or so, I know that it's been very wonky and very weird, and a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today, you all have seen up front. Would you say that this has been a year of perseverance?
Yes.
Everybody, how so? How so?
I'll start off. I know for me, with this being my senior year, I didn't imagine having to go through it virtual, and I'm a very hands-on person. So as far as not being able to get feedback from my peers and be able to interact with students and teachers, it was kind of hard to be able to get through that. But we had a great team, especially at my school, to be able to get through that. So
how did you stay focused through that time?
it took a lot of discipline. I know for my school specifically, we have what is called the Future Center. So we have a very strong support system that is able to just kind of keep us in check, keep us focused with our future and the things ahead of us. So we had a very good support system to help us with that.
And by the way, for those of you all who do not know, Emery is already a CNA. So I just wanted to brag on her real quick. Same for you. I love that we have fellas in the room as well. For you guys, I mean, we've been talking about Black men a lot and Black men in different spaces a lot. How's that been for you all this year?
It's definitely been interesting. A lot of us, like the seniors, we're planning to head off to college in the fall. And college visits are like pretty important when trying to figure out like where you want to spend the next 4 years. And a lot of us had to do that virtually, so just trying to navigate and figure out what school is the best for you without being able to be there physically definitely was a challenge. But just looking around at my peers and for myself, I feel like a lot of us end up picking the right schools just from what we were able to see.
How did you make that final decision?
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, for me, I know that my family's big Michigan fans, and I was between a couple of schools, but just knowing that I've always been able to kind of call that place like my second home, it's been pretty clear that that was the school for me to go to.
I knew
And you
there
light
had
up when you talk about it.
Right.
So, right? You know that's the right choice.
I knew there had to be a reason why you wanted to be cold.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. But you talk about home a lot. You know, for the rest of you, I know some of you are still going to be here in Indianapolis with us. Others of you are going off to college. You know, when you think about home, what are some of the things that you think about that make something feel like home? Anybody?
I would say just being where your family is at. I know I grew up born and raised here in Indianapolis. It's the only place I know to call home. I know my parents are immigrants from West Guinea, so that's their home, but Indianapolis is where I call home, and it's where I know my family is at. So just being able to always come back here and know I'll have family members here is what makes this place home.
I'm so happy that we share a home with you. Speaking of home, we should probably show everybody exactly where everyone is from. We actually have a map of all the schools and places that you guys are representing today. So when you think about all the wonderful conversation that's happening today and all the brilliance, it's coming from all of these different places, and these are the exact places that we're talking about will be very much impacted by the things that we talk about today. Isn't it kind of fun to see where you all are from? Yes, I love it, and it's really spanning across many things. So, okay, I'm really excited we got a chance to meet our brilliant panel. We told you all, they're pretty brilliant. Let's go ahead and get right to one of our questions. So, how would you spend the money to address the needs of your community? Let's start there, because we know that we're talking about $100 million.
Yeah, who wants to kick it off? Anybody? Feel free.
I think it would be really great if we kind of invested the money into, for those who are wanting to pursue a post-secondary degree, because I know there are a lot of adults out there who don't really know the way. And I think it's also going to be good if we really provided support for those who are in schools. For example, a large number of people are first-generation low-income students. I know that I didn't really know the way with college admissions process. I didn't really know how to afford college. I think it would be really nice if we educated our students more about what it's like to afford college for free, the opportunities out there looking for them. I think that would be a really great idea.
I love that.
We're both
I love that.
Education.
And so how do we do that, right? So do we want more centers? Do we want more people that are able to educate people? And anybody can, go in, because you already got us started with this really brilliant idea. How do we do that?
We can, like some schools are like I know, like my school, Ben Davis High School, not Ben Davis University High School. Ben Davis High School is very big. I think it would be nice if we really invested like more counselors to talk to students about the way just life outside of high school is, because it's really tough when you have two counselors just like focusing on just like thousands of students. It's not an easy job. I think that would be very beneficial for students.
I love that. And Darnell, you had something?
Yes, so on the Mayor Youth Leadership Council, we actually talked about something similar with that. A lot of counselors do focus on scheduling or helping students prepare for college, but even more so, it's important that the mental health of the students within our schools is being addressed. So there needs to be more counselors focused on the emotional needs of students, not just scheduling for classes and things like that, which with that means we need more counselors and more funding. So that's an important way that the money should be used.
Okay, so we hear that we want more educators, we want more people who can kind of guide the education process. What else do we want to spend money on? This is a lot of money to spend in all those communities that we just saw on that screen.
And I love the focus on mental health. That's so important. I'm sure you've had many of your classmates and schoolmates that need help with that, and that's nothing. It needs to be brought to light.
Being from the east side around Warren Central, if you're ever around there, you can see that the area is kind of run down. There's a lot of plazas there that don't have very many restaurants. And I think a great way to build back Indianapolis is to bring back the black middle class that our parents and families talk about from tens of years ago. If you go down to Fishers or any places around Indiana, you can see Super Krogers, Targets, all types of anchor stores there that really bring the community together and bring pride around an area that also bring other businesses in. So I think it'd be a great idea to fund that $100 million into building up the food desert and also bringing anchor stores in.
It's amazing when you talk about the economics of it all. Our investigative reporter, Jasmine Miner, just did a story about that, about the black dollar and the fact that the black dollar actually does not stay within the black community for very long. It goes elsewhere, opposed to their counterparts. So talking about economics, that's huge. What else should we spend this money on, you all?
To add on to what Sterling was talking about, I think one thing we could definitely invest the money into is like recreational center for kids. I know there's going to be some kids that going home after school may not be the best option for them, just where they're staying at here in Indianapolis. So making a place where kids can go after school if they want to like have free time, play basketball, and to incorporate what Miriam was saying as well, like tutoring sessions as well at these recreational centers. I think that would definitely be a good idea.
Some people would argue that we have that, but is it that it needs to be in a more pointed place? Are we doing a good job as a city of like putting it in the right places, these types of resources?
I can answer that. I know we have the CLD building, which is closer toward my school, closer towards downtown, but within our communities, there's not that many sensors or resources like that. So piggybacking off of what he said, we could also have more programs centered towards students who don't necessarily know what they want to do with their future, that can be infiltrated through the schools, through communities, through churches, different things of that nature, because we talk about post-secondary education, but a lot of students don't even know where to start when it comes to that, as far as what do I want to do with my life? What does that mean, trying to figure out what it is that I want to pursue in my future? So being able to have people set in place, whether they come into our schools or we have more sensors within our closer communities, all of that can fix that.
What's one resource that you found vital that maybe, or one you didn't have that you wish you would have had, that you hope future generations had? A place to go, or you know, just a resource that's essential?
I would say specifically for me, just being able to be around people who have gone to college or graduated. They do tend to give a lot of perspective on, you know, the do's and don'ts and how to prepare for all of that. And not all students have that at home. So, and then when you're at school, there are resources for you to be able to speak with someone with that. But it's almost like if the student feels the need to use that resource, they'll use it. But there's not a clear focus on that. And not all the time students are going to be involved in school, but just because of that doesn't mean that they can't find a way to be involved in the community. And a lot of times, places around Indianapolis, there are not a lot of places to be involved with the community if you're not wanting to do it within school. So there just needs to be more resources just outside of where you're going for school.
So we talked a lot about education, but I think that there's some other things that make home home, right? You know, Grace, I'm going to start with you, and then hopefully we'll hear from Regine as well. Violence is huge. I know you work with the Mayor's Council. You've seen it in different ways. So where can this money go to help that issue? Because every day on our shows, I feel like I'm talking about violence all the time.
Yeah, definitely. That was a very big topic that we covered as the Mayor's Youth Leadership Council, and one thing that we noticed is that mental health plays a big role in a lot of things, and one of them being violence, or teen violence, as we focused on. And what we came to the conclusion of is that we need more mental health resources and emotional training to just figure out how to manage our emotions so we don't end up going to violence as a last resort, or just having people to talk to that look like us, and we can really confide in them about what's going on at home or just like within the school building, anything like that, so where violence isn't on the table as an option to deal with all of these emotions that we're feeling.
So you want more people on the streets? Okay, so that's where you want the money spent. Regine, what about you? I mean, how, whether it's violence or crime, how can we spend this money to make Black communities thrive?
So I think like a foundation for family in general is the nuclear family, and I think that's the problem with a lot of Black Americans. They don't have that stable like family in the home. So I think maybe we could put money into mentorship programs for kids, because kind of going back to education, you can have the education and all the resources there, but if you don't have someone to give you that push, or if you don't feel the motivation within yourself to take advantage of these resources, it's kind of useless.
Ooh, Regine,
Yes.
she would come up with a bunch of different things. And let me tell you, you talked about family, and we're going to get back to that, because I think that that's huge when we start talking about how to spend this money.
The repetitive issue of mental health and how to deal with your emotions.
Absolutely. Well, you
Insightful
know
stuff.
what? We've got many more questions to get all of these brilliant minds, their perspective on, but Mackenzie will explain how you can get involved at home.
Yes, and please do take the survey. Tell the Urban League how you'd spend the $100 million to address challenges facing the African American community in Indy. It'll take just about 10 minutes. Okay, here's where you go. You can find it at surveymonkey.com/r/quality of life Indy 2021. We'll show you this address again later in the show. Don't worry. You can also find it on wishtv.com under As Seen on TV.
After the break, our panel tackles the racial disparity among Indianapolis communities and how to level the playing field. Make sure you stick with us.
You're watching Wish TV, Indiana's only statewide TV news network.
We are are back with our 7 student panelists who are getting an unprecedented opportunity to give the Indy Urban League their perspectives on how to spend a $100 million grant gifted by Lilly Endowment.
The National Urban League says the pandemic has illuminated decades of disparities and unequal access to life-essential resources. That's huge. Randall Newsom is here to shine a light on some of those disparities. Hey, Randall.
Yeah, Alexis, the information I'm going to share with you clearly highlights a disparity between what black and white teens are facing in our community. Take a look.
Growing up can be a challenge in itself, but recent studies have shown us that growing up as a black person in America means you may be facing an uphill battle. We kicked off the conversation with education, breaking it all down with Marshawn Wally, economist for the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative. First, when it comes to school suspensions, the Columbia Law School Center found that black students are 6 times more likely to get suspended than white students for the exact same infraction. Oftentimes, it goes one step further.
A lot of incidents that happen at the school level, instead of them going to the principal, they end up in the juvenile detention center. And then we also know that that is a feeder system into the adult prison system. We find that disproportionately young black males end up in that system.
Then poverty. There's more than twice the amount of black people living in poverty than white.
You really get concerned about young people in poverty that has a lot of potential developmental issues, both physically and then also emotionally over time that you'll see 10, 15 years later.
And maybe one of the toughest to tackle, violence taking young people's lives.
We would go to church and they'd say, you know, black males are an endangered species. I can't even comprehend the level of anxiety that young people are dealing with now. We've had 13 young people killed, 18 years or younger, since January of 2020.
He and his team know the data. Now it's just a matter of what to do about it.
Thinking about business development to housing strategies to potentially food insecurity.
They want to make sure the community's ideas are top of mind.
Making sure that we talk to as many of the 250,000 black people in this city, basically the 3rd largest population in Indiana.
Not just giving the weight of the responsibility to the school leaders, getting to the root of problems that may be at home.
If the home doesn't have the capacity, then the community really has to step forward.
So what's driving people like Marshawn to confront all these issues? The kids.
I think the thing that gives me hope is both their resilience and their hope. If they have hope, then how can I not?
Strong words there. Marshawn told me he's very anxious to hear what our young panelists have to say about these issues. And with that, Alexis, I'll send it over to you.
Randall, thank you so much for breaking all those things down. And with those disparities in mind, our next question for our brilliant panel is, what are the major challenges or types of racial disparity that you're facing in your community? We'll start with anyone.
First thing that pops in your head.
I immediately think of being in the store. I know it's something that's been said before, but a lot of times it can be after school, it can be a normal day. I'll just run out and go run errands, and I find myself getting followed through the store, just kind of getting looked at sideways. And I wrote down conditional in the beginning of the show for how I would describe the quality of life for us, because sometimes if you don't look a certain part, you automatically get judged a certain way. And I feel like that is a major problem because you don't know anybody unless you have a conversation with them. So something as small as just looking at us like we're an object rather than a person is something that isn't often talked about. It's acknowledged a little bit, but it's something that we have to go through in our daily lives.
Especially in 2021. Yeah. You know, you have so many people who will say, well, you know, that was back then, get over it. But it's like, no, I mean, we're in a historic time right now. Regine, I think I saw you nodding your head a little bit. What do you think about this, racial disparities and the things that Randall kind of outlined in his story?
I would say like just having role models in your life and like successful people that look like you, because I know with myself, again with like the college thing, I had to like walk myself through the process for most of it, and I had to learn like what to do for myself. And I just think if there were more like diverse representatives for like college graduates and stuff, it would show like black kids, minorities, that like they can do it too.
It's amazing to me that we're having these conversations. Oftentimes, I know you and I have talked before, you know, I think about like my grandma, for instance, and like she legitimately had to stop going to high school so that way she could pick cotton in Texas. Like that's just what, 2 generations from me, right? So like when we start to talk about some of these racial disparities and where they're coming from, it's deep. I mean, do you all talk about these things in your homes? How do those conversations go?
Definitely a lot of times within my family or just talking with friends, we hear a lot that when we're speaking with other communities, they'll mention like murals that are being painted or places that showcase Black art, and it's like they want the conversation to stop there, or that we're supposed to just stop and be appreciative of that, but that cannot be a substitute to the needed reform that's supposed to happen with all of this, because showcasing Black art is not going to stop the bodies that are in the streets. Like, there's still issues that are around here, and I feel like it is easier to just speak about the art or uplifting Black music, anything like that. It's very easy it's an easy topic and very digestible to just talk about that, or even to add that into your company or a slogan, but to actually make the needed change for the issues that have been happening, to put a stop to that. That's the thing that's not so digestible, and it takes a lot more effort. And I feel like we're made to feel that we're supposed to just sit back and be appreciative of all of that, and we are, but there's more that needs to be done with it, and the conversation cannot just stop there.
Let's talk about that needed change, I think, and the fact that you use the word digestible, perfect, spot on, because that's a whole thing on its own. Let's talk about where do we spend the money to make those changes? What changes need to be made?
Specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody.
I believe it's really nice if we just allocate our resources to like a lot of teenagers. It's really sad when I just know that a lot of teenagers my age are just, dying of gun violence. That shouldn't be happening. We're young kids. We have our future ahead of us. We need to allocate these resources to even educate parents and just students on how we can prevent our children and other youths from being the next victims of what would take place with just gun violence and more.
What I love about both of your perspectives actually is that you go home and know that you have families that started by being immigrants and then coming to this country and choosing this community to grow their families. Where can money be spent for families just like yours, so that way these disparities are not as big of a roadblock?
Sterling, did you have something to add?
A little bit to piggyback off of what she said about the violence in the streets and how to spend the money. There's a lot of kids who are outside of school. There's not a lot of places for them to go. They're sitting inside of their homes, and sometimes their home lives aren't the best, and the only place that they resort to escape their home life is the streets. And in the streets, there's not a lot of times anything good going on in there. So I think the money should be spent on programs to take those kids off the street, those kids that don't have anything to do other than school and sports, and provide them to a place kind of like CLD, like she talked about, where you can talk about these issues with your friends, with your community, talk about the change that needs to be made to get these problems off of your chest. Because a lot of times when you let these problems build up, it tends to lead to no good.
Would students go to these programs? What would be a way of a lure to make people want to go to these programs?
I think the lure, more than just spending the money on these places to go, I think it starts in your household. Okay. Parents need to be able to direct their kids and really make sure that they're going and getting these opportunities. Sometimes kids don't listen to their teachers all the time, and teachers in schools might try to direct somebody to go there, but it really starts in your household. Usually what your family preaches, you start following along with. So if it starts in your household, it'll tend to lead in a better good.
What's something, I was just going to ask, in your household that you've been told that you keep with you? And anyone can answer this, but like a gem that, you hear and you keep with you at all times.
Your future are in your hands. Whatever decision you choose to make today, just know it's going to affect you in some way or another. And for me, I just really value my education. I know that college isn't usually like the key to success most of the time, but for some people like me, who are low income, first generation, who've had really tough childhoods and just growing up, this is like the only way out for me. You need to get a college education, you need to work hard, be successful, make a future for yourself, and live a content life. So your future in your hands, and you make the most out of it.
I love that you say that, because I'll go back to my previous question about, people who have immigrants, in their families, and this is really for everybody, building wealth, because building wealth and disparities, they impact each other. How do we do that with this money that they're trying to give out to different people in our communities? How do we build wealth?
Just to kind of add on to what they were both saying, in our households, it's definitely important to talk to our parents about it. Me and Miriam have both been blessed, obviously, with very educated parents and parents who instilled in us that we also need to get our education. So definitely parents is one thing to look at, but I also think our peers, maybe funding some way. I mean, the 7 of us are all educated enough to go out there and be leaders in our community. So just finding some way to get kids to talk to other kids like us, because I know it's easier to, like Sterling said, kids might not listen to teachers as well as they listen to their parents or listen to their peers. So definitely funding some way to get other students to get out there and talk about it as well.
So creating a space for that to happen.
Yeah. What would you say to a peer that is lost, that isn't on your path, but wants help and wants to better their lives?
I would definitely just encourage them to look forward. You can't be in the streets all your life, and that's just something everybody's going to have to realize at some point. Getting your education, even if you don't want to go to college or go to trade school or anything like that, finding something that you're passionate in other than just being outside, being in the streets. It'll definitely be better for you and be better for the people around you and your family like that.
And can anybody, before we get off of this topic, just maybe talk to us about how disparities in Black communities is not a monolith. It's not either that people are extremely poor or extremely rich. There is an in the middle. Anybody want to make a comment on that? Yes.
So I know, like, the other day I was reading about, like, food deserts in Indianapolis, and I was like, because I had, like, no knowledge of this, because I've, like, always had, you know, access to, like, healthy food and stuff. And so it just really surprised me. And then it just made me realize that, like you said, it's not all a monolith, and, like, struggles are, like, they're on a spectrum. And it's not all just, like, complete poverty or, like, wealth.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Yes, Sterling.
Saying it comes down to opportunity. Sometimes white kids are taught things that Black kids don't get the same teachings about. Stuff like credit lines, how to build credit. White people's parents always teach them how to build credit and how to build that wealth, that generational wealth. But Black students don't always learn that all the time, and that really starts in your household as well. Sometimes it doesn't always come down to coming to college either if you don't want to. There's lots of things, like I know at Warren Central we have the Career Center where people can go and learn a trade. And I have some buddies who, as soon as they finish their senior year of high school, they're making $50,000, $60,000 working a job. So that might not always be the path. It's just finding that thing that you love, holding on to it, and making sure that you chase that goal.
Wow. I think this is so good, and understanding the conversations that have to happen before we even start to spend money, right? That's awesome. Well, you know what? We have to take a break, but first, Mackenzie explains exactly how you can get involved at home.
That's right, and we hope that you will. You too could take the survey. Tell us how you'd spend the $100 million to address challenges facing the African American community here in Indy. It'll just take about 10 minutes, and here's what to do. You find it surveymonkey.com/r/quality of life Indy 2021. We'll show you this address again later on in the show. You can find it also at wishtv.com under As Seen on TV. Alexis.
All right, so next, you might call this our lightning round. We're going to throw some comments to our student panelists, and they'll indicate whether they agree or they disagree. You know they're brilliant. You're not going to want to miss this after the break.
You're watching Wish TV, Indiana's only statewide TV news network.
We are back with our student panel, and they're here helping the Indy Urban League determine how to spend a $100 million grant given by Lilly Endowment.
Okay, panelists, now this is what we like to call the lightning round. We're going to say a series of statements. You're going to hold up your pads indicating whether you agree or disagree. There's no holding back. Are you ready to go? Yes. All right, here we go.
Got your paddles in hand.
Got your paddles in hand? Let's do this.
Wonderful. Okay, first one. My community lacks jobs. Agree or disagree? Disagree, disagree, agree, agree, agree.
Okay,
so we're actually split.
Okay.
Ooh, anybody feel really strongly about this one? Yes?
I would just say more so you have to look at the location and the different areas of where the jobs are located. I know that for the northwest side of Indianapolis, there's like a lot of gas stations and food places, but again, there should be more opportunities for students to get jobs, and not just students, but Black adults as well. And if you look at other places like Fishers, you do have those. You can have malls or superstores, all that kind of stuff, and those are opportunities for people to get part-time jobs or whatever the case may be. So I just feel like there are jobs available. It just depends on the location that you are at.
Okay, we'll keep lightening. My community lacks quality education. Agree or disagree? Okay, so mostly disagree, two agrees. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go to this one. My community lacks local leadership. Would you agree with that or disagree? Lacks local leadership.
Agree, 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 disagree, disagree, disagree. Wow, split again.
Okay, why do you agree with that, front row, if someone wants to?
I would say you look back at like the civil rights movements and things like that. I know my dad would talk to me about this a lot. The difference of how things were going then versus now is that they did have those really strong leaders to help pull the community together. And a lot of times in our communities, we will have smaller leaders, but we don't have those really huge prominent figures to help bring the community together, because although as a community we do have issues that we're trying to fight against, there are issues that happen within the community, and with that, if we had you know, really strong leaders within each area, that would help kind of split or get rid of the divide and help bring everyone together. So.
Quickly, Grace, you said disagree?
Yeah, I see so many people as leaders in my community that I just can't say that we lack local leaders. I just think we lack a platform for these leaders to show the rest of the communities in the world how much they are leaders, if that makes sense.
The leaders need the platform.
Yes.
Okay, well said. My community is crime-ridden. Do you agree with that or disagree?
So all agrees on the first one, agree, agree, and one disagree. And you disagree, why?
Just like Darnell said, it's mainly focused on the location. Growing up, I'm from Decatur Central, so southwest side of Indianapolis. I've been blessed to I've been away from that, the violence and stuff like that. I can't really recall a time where there's really been gun violence in my community or anything like that. And that's all on the police department and the people around Decatur Central, keeping it a safe place. So I'm not gonna, I can't agree with that statement just because I know those people have been doing their best to keep my community safe.
Okay, next up, people in my community don't want to work hard. Agree or disagree? Disagree, 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 okay.
Disagree.
All right,
Okay.
Next up, it looks like it is, I'm satisfied living in Indianapolis.
Disagree.
Agree, disagree, agree, disagree, agree, disagree. So we're split again, okay? And for the disagrees, why?
I just believe things could just be better. I don't know, maybe it's just because of my financial situation, but I believe things could be better, and I believe I could just work hard for it. And I've already been given the opportunity to, and now it's just my turn to just work hard and persevere through all the adversities I will continue to face in life.
And agree, why? Or who said agree? Did anybody say agree? Okay. Well, then never mind.
Well
there we
said.
go.
Okay, now be honest about this one. I'm very optimistic about my future.
Agree
I'd love to see
across the board,
this.
as
Okay.
you should.
Yes,
because
as you
we
should
keep
be.
saying, you're brilliant.
Okay, this is the next one. I'm very optimistic about the future of Indy's Black community. Disagree or agree?
So we have agrees and agree. Okay, so everyone agrees. All right.
We love that optimism.
I have personally experienced discrimination while living here in Indianapolis. Agree or disagree? We have an agree in the back, disagree, agree, disagree, disagree, agree. Okay, so for my agree, you kind of told us about this before. Why do you agree?
So because I'm an immigrant and I just moved here, sometimes I feel as if I'm not welcome in spaces just because I am Nigerian. And it happens a lot of the time, and it's just really disappointing. And that's really just why.
And Sterling, you said disagree?
I disagree. In Indianapolis, I haven't really faced any problems, but definitely in Fishers, I faced some racial unwelcome because of the color of my skin in sports, in school, even going to the grocery store, going to the swimming pool especially. So I've experienced that here, but not in Indianapolis personally.
Okay.
And who did you express, like, situations that happened?
One of the situations that happened to me, I was just going to the swimming pool, and if you've ever seen people go through the exit gate to enter the swimming pool, sometimes you forget your card, but that doesn't mean you're not a member of the community or in the neighborhood. You just go through there because you forgot your card. And there was a man there who, there were 5 or 6 white kids that went in front of me and entered in the pool gate, and I came right after them, and the guy tried to say that I wasn't part of that neighborhood and that I didn't live there and threatened to call the police. So.
And those are the types of things that happen that a lot of the people who are sitting here have to continue to be excellent through. That's powerful. Next one. I would say that race relations in Indy are really good. Disagree or agree? Disagree, 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 disagree. Okay, so everybody disagreed. Anybody want to talk about that?
And
real
offer
quick?
up some solutions, ideas you have.
I know recently, just over the summer, especially with us seeing riots and protests, that kind of speaks for itself as far as the division that we've seen recently within our cities. Not necessarily about things that have happened in Indy, but a lot of them have been. I know personally I've lost a few friends due to gun violence. Not all of that was the community against itself, but some of it was because of police brutality. Some of it was out of acts of racial inequality. So that is something that I've seen.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being so honest with us. We want to continue to keep this conversation going. We have discussed what's lacking in Indy's Black community. So let's talk a little bit about what you do have. What are the primary assets that the Indy Black community possesses, and what's something that adds value or positively contributes to your quality of life? Family.
Family.
I know Regine had talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Why do you say family?
I know for me, I've seen it time and time again within the Black community. We're really good at coming together, especially after a tragic event. It's sad that it has to be after a tragic event, but we're very good at uplifting each other, coming together, letting each other know that it's okay and that we do have a community to stand on.
That's good. What else? What do we have? What do we have?
Like our resilience. Just after everything that we've been through as a community or individually, we're still here. We're still in the city. We're still together, and I think that's a great thing.
It's a wonderful thing. Darnell, what are you most proud of?
I would just say our influence on other communities. I feel like within the Black community, we have a lot that catches people's eye, whether it's our music, food, clothing, everything. So I feel like with that, we tend to have a spot in the public eye a lot, and with that, we can use those platforms to speak our mind, just how we are here today. But even out within the street, we're really able to help influence and then use those different communities to help us get the things that our community is really in need of.
Culture is a powerful thing, isn't it? When you're walking around, you're like, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have more things? What are some good things that we do have?
Just to add on to what these two women said, I feel like our resilience, especially after last summer, with all the Black Lives Matter movement that was going on and the protests and the riots, I think the Black community definitely displayed that we're willing to fight for better action in Indianapolis. We're not going to sit down and just let things go bad. We'll definitely be up, make sure our voices are heard. So
I'm hearing community, I'm hearing originality, I'm hearing culture. Any other things that are really good? Yes, Regine.
I think like on a resource level, like local businesses and organizations like churches or libraries, because I know like a lot of these resources like are in like public libraries, you can find like job fairs and stuff. But like I said before, it's kind of letting people know that those resources are accessible to them.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's so powerful to have places like the Urban League. I mean, doing the work and an actual place to go. Like it's not just an idea, like you can actually physically go there. Any other really great things about what your communities already have? Sterling?
Everybody said we definitely have strength in numbers, and when we're willing to come together for a common goal, we do a great job of fighting for that and staying together. Whether it's music, food, clothing, we always find a way to fight.
After the year that we've had, the year and some change that we have, do you feel yourself having even more pride for being a part of the Black community? Anybody? Explain that to me. Talk to me about that. Anybody? More pride after the last year, year and a half?
Just being able to say that we've made it through it. Being Black students, going through school with what we went through, whether it was virtual or hybrid, going to school half days like that. Just be able to say that we Black students were able to do it. It's definitely a pride thing. So.
Love that. Yes?
I think that beforehand, it was like we were always fighting just to get the platform to be able to speak on what our needs were, or just, the racial disparity that is there. So I feel like now more than ever is the time to fight, because we do finally have those platforms and we have everyone's attention now. So I feel like it is the time to, really wear that on your chest and be proud of where you come from.
I'd love to hear that. Sterling, what's one thing that maybe you want your future kids to experience, maybe that you didn't experience, but you want for them?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I really want them to experience that I might not have is just the fairness in every place that you live. And I'm blessed to be coming from Fishers to Indianapolis. I've experienced things in Fishers that I didn't experience the same thing in Indianapolis. And I just hope that everywhere they go, no matter the color of their skin, how they're like, their personalities, I hope that they're able to not undergo those racial injustices that I went through living in different places.
Wow, isn't it amazing? We're having conversations that I'm sure that you all heard your parents and your grandparents having, and now it's your turn. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, well, you know what? A lot of insightful answers, as we all told you that there would be, but there are more questions to come after the break. How to find good people to lead Indy's Black community moving forward. Stick with us.
Yes. Where you can find, you can take the survey and find more information. You can find it also wishtv.com. That's the spot. Just click on As Seen on TV.
You're watching Wish TV, Indiana's only statewide TV news network.
We are back with two final questions for our panel. And here's the first one. Once the quality of life improves in Indy's Black community, how do we sustain that? Because we have to sustain. Anyone can jump in.
Something that I was always taught growing up was to stay teachable. So I believe that if we educate our community, not only just academically, but on the things that we may do to hurt ourselves and things in our community that work against us, if we have the knowledge and education to know how to combat that and to how to maintain the good quality of life, that'll help us tremendously.
Stay teachable.
Yes, that's good.
That is incredible.
What do we do for our lovely community members that don't want to be teachable? Because we know that we have a lot of people who do not want to be taught something different.
I would say just teach the people around them. Try to educate those who may be in the same community as them, same places as them, and hopefully, like I said earlier, just them being around those peers, being around those people, they'll be able to, even though they might be resilient to it at first, they'll come around and end up being teachable.
That's good. That's very good. You know, finally, how do we identify and empower the Black leaders of our community?
I think just doing like what was done here today, just giving the platform for them to be able to speak. Because I know around the lunch table, even at home, like what Grace said earlier, there's leaders everywhere. I just feel like there's just a lack of opportunity to have these platforms to speak on them, for them to feel like a leader, but then be seen as a leader. So they're everywhere within the community. It's just a matter of letting them speak.
Exactly what he said. There's Center for Leadership Development, and then there's things like what we have today, but there's not that many. And even if there are, it really comes down to the parents and the families in the household pushing their kids to do these types of things. It can't come down to just the schools and teachers asking them to do it. It has to be coming from your own household. It'll push you to do it.
It starts at home.
I also think, like CLD and many other recognized leadership organizations, there are also other ways for people to be leaders that we just have to show them. Like, you don't have to be a part of a large organization or like Key Club in school or National Honor Society. It can be as simple as in the classroom, just leading like the discussion or just helping your student next to you if they're confused about something. Just small daily tasks that show leadership that don't have to be like a huge, I guess, like step, or being on TV and being a leader for your community, just showing people that you can really be a leader wherever you are.
And who inspires you to be a leader?
I think it's just all of the amazing Black people who inspire me, who just do their daily routines and just they're so proudly to be Black and so proudly to lead their community and show people of color and non-people of color alike what it's like to be in this world and to exist in this world, and just sharing that knowledge with everyone.
It's something to be proud, isn't it? It's something to be proud.
Look at these smiles. I love it. I like that. This energy.
And I mean, it's amazing because I know you're talking about other people, but I mean, just looking at all of you today, I know there's so many people who are also watching that are just so proud of you. I mean, so that pride, it's a two-way street. I love that you said that. Everybody leads in different ways.
Yeah. What else do you want to say to the folks that are watching?
I think to keep giving young people platforms like this. We all have something important to say, just giving us that platform to say it and being comfortable enough to say it will change the world. So I think just keep giving us platforms, keep listening to us, keep taking us seriously. We may be kids, but there are some topics where we know what we're talking about.
You know what, $100 million is a lot of money, but we know that it's in good hands with good futures. Thank you all so much for sharing yourselves with us.
For being vulnerable and transparent and dropping all that wisdom. Oh man. Well, these are issues that cannot be resolved in just an hour, but with the Urban League's commitment to finding ways to enrich and empower the lives of Indy's Black community through this endowment, I think it's a bold step being taken right here to improve their quality of life.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. I want to thank Tony Mason, President and CEO of the Indianapolis Urban League, Marshawn Wally with the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative, and of course, our 7 amazing student panelists who provided us with valuable insight into their lives and showed up in hopes of making a difference for themselves and their community. To you all, thank you so much.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, of course, we'll continue this conversation, but this is a fantastic start. Thank you.
You're watching Wish TV, Indiana's only statewide TV news network.